Good morning, Professor Henderson. Good morning, good afternoon.
I would say it's good morning for me and good afternoon for you.
Yes. For me, is six or seven.
Wow, it's
PM.
10, about 10 a.m. here. But you're in London. What part of London are you from? Are you in?
I'm in Palmer's Green, North London.
Okay. All right. Okay.
Yeah.
Dr. Chikukwango Cuxima-Zwa.
Yes, Chikukwango Cuxima-Zwa.
Wow.
That's my name.
I'm still struggling with that last name, but I think it's a beautiful name. So I'm glad to have the opportunity to talk to you.
Yes. We finally, managed to get the time together right for us to, do this interview.
That's good. I'm glad about that.
Yes.
Okay, so I'm ready.
I appreciate, to have you, and appreciate, for the work you've been doing. I've been, following your work over the years. I've been, looking at, your teaching styles and methodology, and, all the events you put together at your college. So your work is an inspiration. And, I'm very happy, to be able to, have the time to interview you some questions.
Well, I am really grateful that you took the time, Dr. Chiku, if I may,
Yes.
for taking the time to ask me a series of questions. It's important to me to be able to document my philosophy, not only but for our students, but for the communities as well and the country as well. So thank you for taking the time to ask. So I'm ready whenever you are.
Yes, I'm ready. Yes. My first question is to do with, as a music professor who have been in academic circle, who have been teaching, for many, many years. So my first question would be, why music is important to study?
Music is important to study for multiple reasons. One, music is a universal language. So music is one of the few disciplines where you can communicate without words. When you hear music, you don't necessarily have to have language or words or a text to communicate. It's the sounds that sort of ignite the emotions. So one thing is that music brings us all together socially from a civil standpoint, and it joins all cultures together from a humanistic standpoint. Second, music is important to study because it's one of the only disciplines that cultivate both sides of the brain, the innovative and the logical part of the brain. It allows an individual to always be preparing for a capstone project, in a sense. When you are a music performer or studying music, you're always preparing for something. And that deals with the creativity, but the preparation of it is the logical component of it. It's the part that allows you to understand how to organize your thoughts and your ideas, how to organize your principles and create effective strategies. And those are the elements that are found in the context of higher education. In order to study and to become very good at a discipline, you need to be able to organize your thoughts, but you need to also at the same time be able to have clear methodologies in order how to accomplish your goal. I would say thirdly, music helps freeze the soul. It gives the person the opportunity to express their most inner feelings and their thoughts. It makes us better as individuals when we are very passionate about music, because what music does is just that it softens the heart and it helps you to understand how one culture may be inspired by one type of music and another is inspired by another type. but there's a commonality between all that you hear and you feel. So those are just some ideas. It also prepares you for employment. Because if you are great, whenever you see a great orchestra conductor or a great choral master, you're going to always see a person who's organized, who has administrative skills, who have soft skills. Try running a 200 voice choir or 300 voice choir and not assume that that person don't have administrative skills. You are navigating emotions, you're navigating personalities, you are helping to deal with conflicts, you have a strategic plan, you have a goal. So to me, being a music professional is the most essential element in life.
Okay, you mentioned about one of the points you mentioned was to do with music as universal language.
That's right.
What do you mean? What can you tell?
The sound of music communicates, and the communication is the language. It's artistic communication. Sound itself is communication. It communicates a feeling. When you communicate, you're expressing yourself. So when you listen to music, you're expressing yourself. That's the language. The expression of the sound is the language.
You express yourself even for the viewer or for the listener?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Because if you're listening to music, you are engaged in an emotional exercise. Something that you're listening to is sparking your interest. Okay. That's communication.
Okay. So as a viewer, you partly because of the type of music you listen, you become an extension of the producer or the creator.
That's correct.
Wow.
That's
very interesting.
Very correct.
Yes, very interesting. The other question I have is why Professor think that a person should study music?
For many of the reasons that I mentioned earlier, but primarily because of the discipline that you gain. You should study music as a child, especially coming up in grade school and in college, because of the discipline that you achieve. Most academic scholars that take courses from me, young, mature scholars, young scholars, or what have you, they always leave the course saying, wow, I never thought music was so hard to study. Because people have a tendency to think studying music within the academic arena is an easy thing. It's one of the most hardest subjects you can study. You have to realize that music itself, in the earlier formation of higher education, music was part of a principle known as the quadrivium. And I believe the quadrivium was arithmetic, geometry, science, and music. It was the quadrivium. Music was looked upon by our early creators of the academy, as we call it, as being the most essential subject within the academic institution to study. So music is very, very essential because of the discipline that it affords you, but all of the human skills it affords you in terms of understanding how to analyze, understanding how to, like we said earlier, develop soft skills and a variety of other positive skills as well.
Wow, interesting. What a person should do, what Professor thinks or advise that a person should do a degree or a college qualification?
Now, rephrase that question. Why should you obtain a degree, you're asking?
No. Why a person should do a college degree or a university degree in music?
If you want to become a music professor, a music educator in a K-12 system, if you want to teach privately, If you want to lead an instrumental ensemble, you want to become a background singer, these are some of the careers. Even if you want to become a music leader and manager at a faith center, a church, or you want to become head of a community music ensemble, an inspirational worship leader, theorist, recording engineer, an administrator in marketing for some creative firm. A degree only gives you a finality to an infinite amount of information that you learn that will help develop some competencies so you can best represent yourself. So that's one of the reasons that the degree is very important. But it also is that whether you go into music or not, having a degree helps you to culminate your thoughts and ideas that make you a better employee and make you more socialized. And I don't want to use the word civilized, but more humane in the workplace. Because what it does is that it allows you, in the United States, we use the word social justice all the time, which is really the ability to have, I would say, fairness and treat everyone fairly. So when you're studying music, you begin to learn that even within the context of music, there's racism is involved, and there is value that is placed. So in today's educational arena, when I think you're studying music, there's a greater attempt for having a broad representation of music, will help individuals to develop more empathy for different cultures, which only makes us better, because all of this is to make us better as human beings and civilized individuals.
And what you mentioned about racism. How is the percentage of the level of students you teach in terms of music as a subject?
The majority of my students at Los Medanos College are pretty diverse. I think we have like 30% Latino, maybe like 17-18% African American. I think an adequate amount of, I would say, Asian Pacific Islanders, and then the rest are Caucasian students. So I think we have a pretty wide spectrum of, I would say, representation from the student group. Where you find problems are within the rank of faculty in higher education and music programs throughout the country. Most full music professors are all Caucasian. And that is problematic. That is deeply problematic. Because what happened is that, well, because the entire system is based around this idea that only studying classical music is music that is valuable. That in itself is racist. I love George Frederick Handel's Hallelujah Chorus. But I also love the African-American composer and performer Richard Smallwood as well. I don't think that Handel is no greater than Richard Smallwood. That is an African-American perspective. That's my perspective. I love the gospel legend, Reverend James Cleveland. And so to me, I believe that if you're going to have an equitable education, you should have areas where you're studying music of the great classical artists, you're studying music from the African American genre, you're studying music from the Latino culture, you're even experiencing something called, I believe it's the repetitive ostinato. You're studying music from the Indian culture. You're studying music from Middle Eastern culture. You really are giving a worldview of music and its value. So it should not be. But unfortunately, people try to say that they don't have enough academics with masters and PhDs. That is not true. It is because within the world of higher academia, a lot of the areas are held by Caucasian men and Caucasian women, and they don't want to be uncomfortable. And so because they don't want to be uncomfortable, they don't want to seem incompetent. So because they don't want to seem incompetent, they won't hire no one else, and they don't want to change the curriculum. If you look at curriculums all across the country, music and arts curriculum are probably the worst. Where I went to college, absolutely. Because what happened is that You have the same curriculum. I would dare say, if you look at your typical music curriculum 40 years ago or degree program at a university, it has not changed one bit in 40 to 50 years.
Okay. Even consider that in America, you have institutions that have you have HBCU institutions, you have institutions that have African American departments. So even with that,
but those are not music departments. African American studies departments are not departments of music. They're different. Music is part of the African American culture. But the institution will have an African American studies department, but then also they'll have a department of music. Music was not started in the university by people of color. And don't get me wrong, I'm not promoting any form of a reverse form of discrimination. I'm supporting equality and equity and fairness. And I am simply stating that, as we move on with our other questions, I'm just stating that it is important to understand that for academics within the realm of teaching, they need to open their minds and to realize that none of us are totally complete. Each one of us, each individual in the world is an ever-changing human. We change daily, we grow daily, we live daily, and our thinking and our ideas and our practices should expand and grow. So from that perspective, a music program that only teaches classical music is deadly to social justice, because what it's telling you is that Bach, Mozart, and Handel and Brahms are the only people that are valuable, or artists that are valuable. As much as I love classical music, everyone knows that I deeply love classical music, but I love African American religious music as well. Those are my two fortes. And I'm a good pianist, classical pianist, as well as being a good African American religious musician.
Yes, and that is also my next question. Your subject of teaching is African American music, but you specialize in piano teaching.
I specialize in a variety, not just piano. People think that because they say I play the piano very well, but I play the piano well because coming up as a kid, I didn't do anything but practice 8 hours a day. My mother used to people would call it abuse today, but I'm actually glad she did whoop me. My mother made me play the piano. I practiced the piano 8 to 9 hours every single day from the age of 5 years old up until around, I would say, 25.
Wow.
So, I spent an enormous amount of years learning how to control these fingers.
Wow. It would be nice if we get a little practice at the end of the interview. That would be great.
Well, you know what? We're gonna have to make that the next interview because I'm not in my piano room. I would love to.
Okay. Yes. Maybe another time. But you also teach church music, right?
I teach choral music, and my emphasis in African American at Los Medanos College. Let's start there. At Los Medanos College, I teach the gospel choir there, which has a national reputation. And I also teach our chamber chorale, which is our day group of audition students that emphasize in choral literature from the classical choral tradition. And so I have skills in both, because that's my emphasis. Anyone that knows me know I love classical music and I love African American gospel music. And I validate and have experience in popular forms of music, other forms of popular music such as jazz, R&B, and all those things as well. Those are not my 100% forte, but as an educator, I understand them from a contextual standpoint, and I have general adequacy in performing. But my two areas of strong emphasis it's classical music and African American gospel music.
Yeah, and as a professor, you also practice, and then you're part of community. You play in the church as well, right?
That's right. I work at the music church. I said music. I'm going crazy. I work as minister of music at one of the Bay Area's most prominent churches, the Palma Ceia Baptist Church. I have been at this church since 1970. My mind is on 1981, I think it is. Wow. Yes, 1981. Wow. I've been there 40 years. Yes. Wow. And I am the music. That church I just love them to death. We at one time were the largest African American Black Baptist church in the United States. And we at one point had a music program for years that had about 400 participants. We would bring and throw very large community events and concerts, and we had a concert calendar, and people come far and near to hear the great Palma Ceia Baptist Church Mass Choir. And even though we have transitioned through life, because when I started there, I was 21 years old, and I'll let you do the math right now. Wow. But, as everyone has transitioned there still is a great amount of love that people have for the legacy of the department. We were known as the African American version of the Mormon Tabernacle Choir. And so I have such great memories, and I have such great respect for each one of our participants, our choir members, the church, the administration, the community. That's been another career of mine that I've absolutely adored. And that's allowed me to intermix with, or to mix, I should say, with all the great gospel personalities all across the country.
Oh, so through that, you obviously had the opportunity to play with other.
We bring a lot of celebrities to the church. Yeah, we've brought Gerald Albright to the church. We've brought Kirk Whalum to the church. We had the late Reverend Daryl Coley. These are all great gospel and jazz legends. So, we have a plethora of people that we bring. It was because, during those times, I was much younger in those days.
That's understandable. So it shows that during your young days, you really experienced a lot through, your music career.
Absolutely. I've had a wonderful career in music, from teaching, from organizing, to being program directors, to being a manager, to being executive producer. I've produced 3 albums. My first album, I sold over 100,000 copies. That was the one from UC Berkeley. The last one, I think we sold 50,000. The church recording that we did, One Body in Christ, I think we sold over 200,000. I interfaced with famous musicians, local musicians, churches, students, politicians. We had an opportunity to perform for the religious scholar Jack Hayford, Reverend Jesse Jackson, the famous social activist, the international legend, Reverend Jesse Jackson. Oh God, we've performed for the national NAACP, local NAACP, the city, orchestra conductors, a variety. I mean, I can't even keep track of it. My list of opportunities are enormous that I've had as not only an artist, an organizer, a leader, a musician. I just wonder sometimes. I talk to myself and ask myself, man, what is my world going to be like when I'm not able to do this? Because it's been part of my fabric for so long. I don't know anything else. Everywhere that I go, I talk about music. if I'm working as an administrator in an acting role, I cannot have a day and not talk about music. I cannot. I just cannot. It is too much of who I am as a person. If I go to the store, I'm trying to, when I see people, I think, man, I wonder if I can get them in a class. And so I'm a very good networker. I'm always reaching out to people. My mind just works like that. It never stops. I just if I just go to the grocery store, I just start talking to somebody, get their number, get them in a class. I'll meet a young person on the street, talk to them, get them in a class. I'm always, excuse me, that was my phone for a second. I'm always just energized about getting young people in class. And I'm energized about getting mature individuals as well. Let's say middle-aged wise folks. I get them in class because I just love music. It doesn't matter to me whether you are the greatest singer in the world, the greatest musician, whether you're just starting out. I love the art of teaching. I love the art of higher education. I love the art. I love community. I love people. I love life. And I'm appreciative and I adore God. I'm a man of great faith.
Wow. So you're constantly thinking ways of bringing people to the classroom, students.
Constantly. That's 24 hours a day. I interview all the time. I'm an energized man. People wonder, how can a man who's been doing this 40 years still have so much passion? I ask myself that at the same time.
Yeah, so it shows that you're passionate. Is your calling.
That's right. That's right.
Yes. That's good. It's good. The next question will be, after a person does a qualification in music, what are the potentials of job in music? What are the opportunities in the job market?
Well, as we talked about, you can become an educator, you can become a private instructor, you can become a performer, you could become a praise and worship leader at a church, then they pay good money. You could become the music pastor of a church. You become a worship leader at a church. You can become an arranger. You can become a theater performer. You can perform for nightclubs. You can go into music therapy. You can open a publishing recording company. You could probably become a music technologist. You could sell music manufacturing materials. You could become a promoter. You could deal with publicity. You become an administrator, music administrator. You could sell, once again, music product. You could even begin to think in terms of going on the air to do certain things. You could deal with music license administration. There's tons of things that you can actually do. You can become a piano teacher. You can become a voice teacher. You can become a national performer or local performer. A variety of things.
Even produce music for films.
Mm-hmm.
For films as well.
That's right.
So music is life. Music.
Absolutely. Imagine watching TV without music. See, people don't even think about it. When they're watching television and a film, there's always music going. There's always music in the background going, or something. Imagine a cell phone with no music. So
music is basically ingrained in all parts of our lives.
Music is life, Doctor.
Music is life.
Music is life. That may be a good way for us to continue to wrap up. I'm looking at my time clock.
Yes. I have about 3 more questions.
Okay.
Yes. I think we already answered what are the actual subjects you teach in school. You already mentioned that. The next question will be, you mentioned about NAACP. So how do you relate, as an African American living in America, a professor who also practice music? How do you incorporate that with experiences of what you experience of discrimination in America? How do you use music as a
I use music as a front to deal with racism and to deal with injustice. I think that's the question that you're asking. Can music be used as absolutely? I use the crowds as a way, because I have very, very large crowds that I bring together. And I have a long time. I have a lot of support, and I have a pretty noted reputation that I didn't create. It was the students that allowed me the opportunity to work with them to showcase my leadership skills. I use my crowds as a way of sharing my perspective. And I'm the sort of person that people love or hate. I got many that love me, many that respect me, probably a few that hate me. But I always speak honestly and firmly. I'm not afraid of anything. I'm not afraid to speak the truth, and I will call something out when it is wrong, and I will do it publicly. I'm not one of these African-American men who just worry about the system all the time or about protecting the system. I'm not erratic. I'm not going to go out and create trouble. But if something is wrong, I'm going to bring it out. But at the same token, when things are good, I will say the same thing. I will comment on those as well. So I use music as in a social justice format. Well, let me rephrase it. I use music as a way of promoting social justice practices at my performances. And then I also run my life like that. I really try to teach my children, my 3 daughters, the value of music and art. They had their entire family has been involved in the performing arts. And so, in our entire life, music was just part of our life. Everybody did music. From the mother to myself to the kids, we all did music.
Oh, so everyone in the family is part of the music?
Absolutely.
Performance. Okay. Wow. Professor Silvester, wow.
And I'm looking at my clock because I got another appointment in about 5, so I don't want to be disrespectful, but I want to answer your other questions for you.
Yes. It is an inspiration, but I think that's all the questions that I have. Unless you want to add something.
I want to say that I am so grateful that we connected. We met on LinkedIn, and yes. I have such great admiration for you as a graduate with your doctorate degree in theater and African American dance and performance from the University of Brunel in London. I look forward to us continuing to dialogue and to support one another, across the continents.
Yes.
You over in Great Britain.
Yes.
I'm always talking about Great Britain, and I'm in America. So I look forward to us being able to continue our dialogue and being able to support each other. And I also want to acknowledge that you have, you are a research scholar that has done a lot of work in the promotion of the supporting the African diaspora.
Yes.
And you've have writings and all that have been published in the encyclopedia. Now tell me, what encyclopedia again is it?
Yes, 2 different encyclopedia. One is the Encyclopedia of Music and Culture.
Okay.
And the other encyclopedia is on the Encyclopedia of African Religion.
And so what I look forward to do is we're going to be having another session of our dialogue that we're going to share with the world, where I'm going to interview you and ask more about your life. So from my heart to yours, Dr. Chikukwango Cuxima-Zwa. Thank you, and we'll be talking soon.
Yes.
All right, then. Take care and have a good afternoon.
Yes, you too. We'll speak soon.
Thank you. Bye-bye now.
Okay, bye-bye for now.